to have Jean-Pierre Luminet as our visitor today. He will give this talk here on the works of Georges Lemaître, the person who more or less invented the idea of the Big Bang. And then this afternoon at 2:30 we will have a colloquium on the subject of the topology of the universe. Okay, so we're very eager to hear your thoughts on both topics.
So, good morning to everybody. Thank you to Jean-Luc and Germain for the invitations. I'm glad to be here and have the opportunity to give first this informal seminar about the genesis of Big Bang cosmology with a special emphasis on the major contribution by Georges Lemaître. So this is of course a talk about history of science and epistemological discussions. So in fact, I devoted myself to the history of relativistic cosmology, a series of writings and of books and articles, beginning with this one, published 20 years ago. This extended version. Well, unfortunately, my books, these two books have not been translated in English, and I have not courage and time to translate by myself. So they are generally not quoted in the literature of the subject, but they contain many information that has been published later by other people.
Sorry? I'm just wondering, is there no French word for Big Bang?
I don't know what.
Is there no French word for Big Bang?
No.
No?
Grand boom, but no. Grand boom. As you know, it was Frédéric who was quite opposed to the idea of Georges Lemaître, that Georges Lemaître called his theory the primeval atom hypothesis, and just to mock this idea, this is the Big Bang man. Because at the end of his life, also Lemaître was also in expansion. Physical expansion. Yeah. Okay. Well, in fact, more recently, I published two very detailed analyses of two major contributions of Georges Lemaître, which can be considered the start of Big Bang cosmology, published in the series Golden Oldies of the General Relativity and Gravitation. I don't know if you know this nice series of epistemological works, republishing with a new analysis and comments about some of the major papers of the in general relativity. Okay. So more generally, you know that it's discovery of galactic redshifts, which served as the experimental basis for models of expanding space, and which gave rise to more modern Big Bang cosmology. It's clearly one of the most important scientific discoveries of the 20th century, and as you know, it's generally attributed to Edwin Hubble, with his paper in 1929. But in fact, as we shall see, redshifts of spiral galaxy has been discovered earlier by Vesto Slipher. The interpretation in terms of a dynamical universe expanding model has been given first by Georges Lemaître in 1927. So this is before the famous paper by Hubble. And in addition, Edwin Hubble never believed in space expansion, only in proper velocity that he interpreted through the Doppler effect, and not like the variation of the radius of space. So going back to first observation by Vesto Slipher. So Vesto Slipher was the director of the Lowell Observatory, and he made the first measurement of radial velocity of a spiral nebula, which is in fact M31, which is the Andromeda. At the time, it was not known that Andromeda was a galaxy. Yeah, okay, the question was open. He found a negative velocity. We know that all galaxies are close together. In 1915, he published a radial velocity of 15 spirals, including 13 were positive. With important thing also is that the average velocity, interpreted from Doppler, was very large. around 25 times the average velocity of stars in the Milky Way. So this discrepancy with the normal velocity of object in the Milky Way led there are also in 1917 25 spirals, including 21 positive, and the only negative were just the closest. Even if at that time there are no clear distance indicator for this object. But this led Slipher to write this, namely to refer the famous hypothesis of island universe, according to which the spiral nebula would be other Milky Ways far outside the Milky Way, due precisely to the fact that the velocity observed could not be, very large velocity, could not be velocity of typical stars in the galaxy. Okay. So for Slipher, it was already an indication that this observation favored the hypothesis of the island universe, and it was assessed by famous Hertzsprung, or the Hertzsprung diagram, in a letter to Slipher, but he congratulates for the discovery of the radial velocity of spiral nebula, and he confirmed that for him also that the very great velocity favors the model of spiral nebula outside the Milky Way. So I just recall you that the theory of island universe was first proposed by Thomas Wright, an English clergyman of the 18th century, in a book, cosmological book with some mysticism, something like that, but very interesting book, called An Original Hypothesis. It was a little bit popularized by the young Immanuel Kant in this famous book, Théorie des Signals, I think, and also by Lambert in this Lettres cosmologiques. And in fact, well, the question were more and more important because at the time of Wright and Kant there are very few observations of spiral nebula, but as you know, with the development of this telescope and the use of big telescope with Herschel, William first and after John, well, we have this drawing of this spiral nebula, which looks like a cluster of stars or maybe a island universe. So as you know probably, well, the question was unsolved, and there was what we call the great debate, which was in fact a meeting in April 1920 at the National Museum of Natural History in Washington. You have two clans. First, on one side, Harlow Shapley, who defended the galactic hypothesis, and the other side, Eber Curtis, who defended the extragalactic hypothesis. Okay. So they discussed, they exchanged their arguments, and as usual, nothing came out. So there is a very detailed, interesting, detailed article by Virginia Trimble on this, what happened exactly in this great debate, which was finally not great at all. Well, the subject was great, but the debate was completely unuseful. Well, as you know, the great debate was closed, was solved thanks to the observation of Hubble, Edwin Hubble, in 1927, who proved the extragalactic nature of some spiral nebula, beginning with that one, this small galaxy, and after Triangle, and after Andromeda. Okay? Usually, it is usually written that he began with Andromeda, but not the first. The first one was this small galaxy. And as you know, he used the Cepheids variable to determine the distance, and so he found that the distance of this galaxy was much, much greater than the size, expected size of our Milky Way. Okay, so now back to the theory. So in November 1915, as you know, Einstein and also Hilbert independently gave the correct field equation for general relativity without a cosmological constant in the first version. Okay. And well, as we could expect, Einstein was the first to derive an exact solution of this equation to describe the universe as a whole, so the first relativistic cosmological model. He assumed that the curvature of space was positive in order to have a finite space, where in order time to develop the reasons in partly linked to the hope that this theory would match the Mach principle. Okay. So finite space, including positive curvature. He wanted a matter density constant because he wanted to build a static model. And as you know probably, in the original version of this equation, this model was unstable. So he had to introduce an additional parameter, which was called the cosmological constant, this term, additional terms. And when he adjusted the value of the cosmological constant to this value, where R is the radius, the curvature radius of the hypersphere, he could stabilize his model. So this is a static model. But the same year, De Sitter derived another relativistic cosmological model, also positive curvature, but empty space without matter. But of course, you have to put something else that matters. So you put the cosmological constant, which plays the role of kind of energy. That will be shown much later. Okay, and also he adjusted the value of the cosmological constant. It's not the same as the Einstein model, in order to get also a static model, namely a hypersphere with a constant radius. But what is interesting, and it will be much discussed and used much later, is that in fact the cosmological constant induces accelerated separation of the world line. So you have a static universe, but the world line in the universe during the evolution separate with a separation which grows exponentially with time. Okay. Now the first work about the dynamical universe was found by Alexander Freeman, Russian mathematician and meteorologist, cosmologist, who supposed in the first paper, he published only 2 papers, because after he died. So in 1922, the first paper, where he assumed as usual that the curvature was positive, and no special assumption about the density of matter, which can be variable with time. He neglected the pressure, and he considered that the cosmological constant could be here or not, no matter. In fact, depending on the presence of cosmological constant, he had many different kinds of universe. In fact, 3 different kinds of universe. So the most famous ones are what you call the periodical universe. In fact, it's a closed universe. Well, for Freeman, it could be a periodical universe, but Freeman expected hope that extrapolating maybe general relativity at the final singularity, the universe could bounce again and give what we call later the Phoenix universe, a succession of arches. Okay, but depending on the other values of lambda, could have a very expanding universe with a singularity, or a very expanding universe without a singularity. And in 1924, a second paper where he investigated just the case, well, more or less the same equation, just he changes the sign of the space curvature. So hyperbolic space with the same assumptions, and this time you have only models in perpetual expansions called famous open models. And in fact, well, in this paper, most of the paper, people have read the original. Most of the paper is devoted to a discussion on cosmic topology that I will develop this afternoon, where Freeman recalled that, in fact, the matrix solution of general relativity does not specify the global property of space-time, and so We cannot say that space, hyperbolic space, for instance, is necessarily infinite. It's true only in a very simple topology, the simply connect topology. Okay. And as I told you, unfortunately, he could not develop more because he died in 1927, probably after a pneumonia that he caught in balloon ascent, because he was mainly a meteorologist, and so he went in balloon in the upper layer of the atmosphere to make measurements. So he died like that. Einstein resists to the idea of a dynamical universe. When he receives the first paper of Friedman in 1922, he published a very short note in the Prussian Academy, note on Friedman works. The result concerning the non-stationary world contained in Friedman work appeared to me suspicious. In reality, it turns out the solution given in it does not satisfy the field equation. When Friedman read the reaction of Einstein, he is really annoyed because he knows that his work is correct. In fact, it's Einstein who made a small error, mathematical error in this calculation. So Friedman cannot, at the time, Friedman could not leave Soviet Union and not right. But he had a friend called Krutkov, who was a friend, which is a amateur of physics, so he could understand the basics of the theory. He was a kind of diplomat, so he could travel outside Russia, so outside the Soviet Union. So he asked Krutkov to meet Einstein here in Berlin, in Potsdam. So Krutkov met Einstein with a letter of Friedman explaining, and Einstein published a second note. My previous note I criticized. My criticism has become convinced by Friedman's letter communicated to me by Mr. Krutkov was based on an error in my calculation. So I consider that Mr. Friedman's results are correct and shed new light. They show that the field equation admit, in addition to static solution, dynamical solution. So we could think that Einstein accepted the idea of dynamical universe. What is interesting is that this is the published part, but the original manuscript that Einstein sent to the editor contained an additional sentence, just to finish, to which it is hardly possible to give a physical meaning. Well, it was cautiously suppressed. I don't know if the editor who asked to Einstein to suppress or just Einstein. But, well, okay. We will see later other reticences of Einstein to Georges Lemaitre work. So now back to redshifts. So in 1933, at the time of Friedman, okay, well, Friedman had no access to the observational results in Europe and in the United States. So Slipher had measured 41 spectral shifts with 36 redshifts. He didn't publish his results, because he was a very modest man. He was only interested by making measurements. He didn't want to have publicity, contrary to Hubble, as we should see. Okay, so the problem is that there was a very important result. So Eddington, who was one major supporter of general relativity, published the book, the famous book, Mathematical Theory of Relativity, 1930. And he was the first to reproduce here in this table the Slipher results with here you see the positive radial velocity. And he wrote one of the most perplexing problems in cosmogony, the great speed of spiral nebula. The radial velocity average is about 600 kilometers per second, so much larger than typical velocity of stars in the galaxy. And there is a great preponderance of velocity of recession from the solar system. Well, so he advocates for the de Sitter solution because he recalls that in the de Sitter solution there are expanding world lines of object, of celestial object, like galaxy, even if it is in the framework of static universe. So he didn't quote Friedman. Okay. Now, well, it's not the first article by Lemaitre, but the first really important work by Lemaitre, in French, published in the Annales de la Société Scientifique de Bruxelles, l'univers homogène de masse constante et de rayon croissant, rendant compte de la vitesse radiale des galaxies. So homogeneous universe with constant mass and increasing radius, giving account of the radial velocity of extragalactic nebula. So the hypothesis of Georges Lemaitre were again positive curvature for space, variable density, also including pressure, contribution of pressure, including the radiation pressure, but he guessed that it could be important at the beginning of the universe. Radiation was more important, and a cosmological constant. He adjusted, in fact, this time, you see that in these graphics there is no Big Bang, because he adjusted the value of the cosmological constant in order to have, in fact, in the infinite past, the Einstein static universe. So he guessed, he had the intuition that the static universe was unstable, and that so it was just a solution, asymptotic solution in the infinite past, and the instability begins the expansion of space. Okay. And so there is no past singularity, and there is no age problem for the... and of course, in the... Well, of course, not of course, but in this paper we have the first interpretation of redshifts in terms of space expansion and not of proper velocity of galaxy. So this is maybe the most significant sentence of this article. So he uses the catalogue of extragalactic nebula with redshift, and he derives this formula. And what we recognize here, of course, what will be called later the Hubble law. We have the proportionality between the distance and velocity, and not interpreted as a proper velocity, but as interpreted the variation. This is R prime is just the time variation of the scale factor. With a numerical value which corresponds in fact to the value of the so-called Hubble parameter. Okay. So I made a detailed analysis of this paper in the golden idea of quantum gravity. The same year, there was a famous Solvay conference. Okay, if you see great people at the time. And the young Lemaitre met Einstein in a taxi going to the place. Einstein, as Lemaitre told later, told him, your calculations are correct. Einstein was the very few person who could read French. Okay, most of the other people, cosmologists of the time, didn't read the article by Lemaitre because it was published in French. Okay, but Einstein could understand French. So he had read the paper. Your calculations are correct, but your physical insight is quite ugly. So it's more or less the same reaction as for Friedman. Okay. In the intervals, you know, this solution has no Big Bang. Okay. Yeah.
In this picture, is Lemaitre also in this photo?
So sorry.
Is Lemaitre also in this photo?
No, he's not. No. At the time, he was not important enough to be in the photograph. Yep. So in this model, there is no Big Bang singularity, but at the time, but not published, and we found these fantastic graphics in the archive. Georges Lemaitre at the Louvain University. He made this drawing by hand of possibilities of variation of the radius of the universe depending on the value of the cosmological constants. Okay, so we found all cases closed universe, open universe with decelerated expansion, and open universe with accelerated expansion depending on the value of the cosmological constant. But at the time he did not yet publish, in fact he never published this kind of graphics, but he knew that there were a lot of possibilities. And at the time it was independent, in fact probably he made these graphics because Einstein told him in 1927 that Friedman had published something. And Lemaitre, who didn't read German, didn't know the paper by Friedman. Okay? So after he knew Friedman and he quoted every time the work of pioneer work by Friedman. So, the famous paper by Hubble in 1929, he published experimental data, as you know, showing a linear velocity-distance relation, the famous relation here, for a sample of 24 redshifts. 20 of them have been measured by Schleifer and 4 by the assistant of Hubble, Emerson. Hubble, in fact, didn't make himself any measurement of the redshift. So he published this. It does not mention any link with the theoretical model of expanding space because it was not his field. And it's interesting to make these graphics. These are the data used by Hubble. Well, the line of proportionality here, more or less, okay, and with a factor of proportionality for the Hubble colorimeter with this value. I recall you that this value was much more larger than the known value today, because at the time they didn't know that there are 2 classes of Cepheids, and so there was a first mistake in the estimation of distances. Okay. And Lemaitre never plotted this graphic, but we can use the data used by Lemaitre to plot the graphics. And in fact, well, it should be more or less the same graphics, and with more or less it gives the same factor of proportionality. Hubble completely ignored the work by Lemaitre. So we don't know if he had read Lemaitre, probably not. So in 1930, Eddington proves the instability of Einstein's static universe, which was suspected by Lemaitre, but there was a proof by Eddington. I omitted to say that in his youth, Lemaitre was a student of Eddington in Cambridge. So, and Eddington calls for new searches to explain the recession velocities in terms either of De Sitter universe or maybe a dynamical space, a really dynamical space model, referring to Friedman, not to Lemaitre. And so Lemaitre reads the short paper, short communication of Eddington about that, and he writes to him, "Dear Professor Eddington, I made this investigation 2 years ago." Because he had sent his manuscript, his paper to Eddington, of course, his former director. But Eddington had no time to read it, he forgot. So Eddington reads again, reads for the first time the paper by Lemaitre, and he understands that Lemaitre had already solved the part of the question. Okay. So he adopts the Lemaitre model of expanding space. He communicates the paper to De Sitter, and they decide to promote really the Lemaitre model and to use the Lemaitre model of expanding space without singularity at the time. Okay, and so Eddington, because he was a little bit confused to have not read before the paper by Lemaitre, say that in order that the paper of Lemaitre is better known in the international community, recommends the English translation of the Lemaitre article for the monthly notices. Okay, so it will help the paper of Lemaitre to be much larger. Okay, it's all right. But problem is that this is one part of the original French article by Georges Lemaitre. And several parts of the article are not translated in the English version, including this part, which is a full discussion of the data of the time, and this sentence that I already showed you, where you have really the Hubble-Lemaitre here, and the value of the Hubble parameter. And all this part is just reduced in the English translation like this. And you have no more the formula R point over R equal V over RC, just the numerical factor. Okay? So, well, this was known also from all people like me and others who were interested in this original paper, but it was generally ignored most of the community, and I don't know why. Very recently, there is a controversy because some people discovered finally this discrepancy, which was well known but not very much discussed. And you had a set of paper. We began to put in question the honesty of Hubble and something like that. Who translated the paper? Or was Lemaitre censored either by the editor or from the monthly notices in order to omit the part which proved that he was, in fact, the first discoverer of the expansion of the universe with the Hubble formula. Did Hubble intervene to ensure this priority? Because we knew that Hubble was a very strong man with a very strong personality, and for instance, he wrote to De Sitter, I consider the velocity distance relations formulation, testing, and confirmation as a Monte-Wilson contribution, and I am deeply concerned in its recognition as such. So he really wanted to have the attribution of the discovery, not only to him, but more generally to the Monte-Wilson contribution. Okay, so in fact, so question was posed. And in fact, thanks to some historical researches in the archives, both of the Louvain University and of the monthly of the Royal Astronomical Society in London, we could have access to the letter, the original letter of the editor of the monthly notices, which is William Smart, to Lemaitre. So this is the manuscript letter. Here you see, personally and also on behalf of the society, I hope that you would be able to do this. I mean this translation. So in fact, the editor asked to Lemaitre to make by himself the translation, and Lemaitre accepted. So the translation was by Lemaitre. Okay? So it was not censored by something else, other than by himself. Self-censorship. Okay? And also, significant part, I will come back a little bit later also. If you have any further addition on the subject, we would publish these two. Okay. Because the smart guess is that Lemaitre, since 1997, has maybe new results. So propose to include in the translation. So as we shall see, Lemaitre will not include these new discoveries in the translation, but he will write a separate paper. So in fact, it's Mario Livio who published this paper in Nature, The Mystery of the Missing Text Solved, because he also found this, the reply of Lemaitre to Smart, and Lemaitre says, I sent you a translation of the paper. I did not find advisable to reprint the provisional discussion of radial velocity, which is clearly of no actual interest, and also the geometrical one, which could be replaced by a small bibliography of ancient and new paper on the subject. So it's kind of self-censorship, and well, we have no more information about that, even if some people later, when Lemaitre was still alive, asked him why he didn't insist to have his name associated to Hubble. Lemaitre was a very modest man, he had other preoccupation, as we shall see, and he didn't want to make any controversy with Edwin Hubble. So for decades, he was forgotten as a really discoverer of the expansion of the universe. So, well, I don't want to criticize just Hubble, but since he's regularly presented as a father of the Big Bang, well, we can be a little bit doubtful about that, because in fact, in his semi-popular book published in 1936 called The Rim of Nebula, he advocates that the present author is chiefly an observer, okay, it's right, and on the 200 pages, there is only one page devoted to possible theoretical interpretation, and he says that it's not his job. So he is very honest, he's a pure observer. He goes just Friedman, Robertson, and Milne, who developed the Newtonian cosmology, but not Lemaitre, to interpret theoretically these results. And anyway, for him, the galaxy redshift are really due to proper radiation velocities, not at all expansion of space, pure Doppler effect. Okay. As I told you, as the editor asked to Lemaitre to add something to his translation, he had new results. In fact, he had fantastic new results, but he preferred to write a separate article, which was published in the same issue in the Monthly Notices, just after the translation of his paper, of his previous paper. Okay. And it's called The Expanding Universe, published in March 31. Okay, so you see the main difference. There is a beginning, a passing rating. Because it doesn't fit the cosmological constant to a specific value, so we consider the general case, and in the general case, as you know, inevitable singularity in the past, so with all these hypotheses. So we have perpetual expansion, which is initially decelerated, then accelerated due to the presence of the cosmological constant. So starting from the singularity, the universe first expands, passes through a phase that Lemaitre called a stagnation phase, during which the radius doesn't increase rapidly, and start again in accelerated expansion. For Lemaitre, in fact, this model saw both the H problem, which was already posed at the time, and namely compare the theoretical age of the of the models with the estimated age of the old star in that. At the time, it was expected to be a few billion years. Okay, and also very important, he was the first to be interested in the process of formation of galaxy. Of course, he had the intuition that there is a competition between the expansion of space and the aggregation of matter, accretion of matter by gravitational effect to form the galaxy. So for him, this stagnation phase left the time enough the galaxy to form. And introduced the famous primordial atom hypothesis, which is a description of the first stage of the universe. Of course, he knew that the singularity, infinite curvature, was just an extrapolation of general relativity equation, so just that big for him, the beginning universe could not be really described physically. So we call that the primordial atom, where he imagined that the first stage of the universe was a huge atom of the size about the solar system, okay, and due to quantum effects, as we shall see later in this first, in this next paper, the quantum instability gave rise to disintegration of the primordial atom to give the expansion of space. And just to give an idea of the literary style of Georges Lemaitre, there is a famous description of the fireworks, red wings, ashes and smoke. Rather poetic description, but quite pertinent on the physical point of view of the so-called origin of the universe. Okay, so this is really a fundamental step in Big Bang cosmology. Of course, Friedman had also predicted these kind of things, but not supported by any observation at the time. Here we have observation, not that. Okay. So again, some negative reaction. Einstein, this recalls to me the dogma of creation. Eddington, the notion of beginning of the world is repugnant to me. Okay, there are some kind of philosophical point of view, but also motivated by the fact that Lemaitre, as you know probably, was also a man of religion. He was a canon. So these people suspected that Lemaitre wanted to find a solution recalling the account of Genesis in the Bible. Of course, they couldn't accept that. But it is completely a misinterpretation of the work by Lemaitre. Lemaitre never made any link between his faith and his scientific practice. For him, the physical beginning of the universe, described by his primordial atom model, had nothing to do with the so-called creation of the universe, which for him was not physical, only metaphysical. Okay? He wrote in several papers that the cosmological theory remained completely out of any metaphysical or religious question, and for him, science and religion correspond to separate level of understanding, and they had not to be mixed. For me, it's an exemplary attitude between, of a man of faith, but who doesn't mix his faith with his scientific practice. In 1931, he published an incredible paper, which is very short, only one-page paper in Nature, which is called The Beginning of the World from the Point of View of Quantum Theory. In fact, it's a reply to a remark of Eddington when he said that the notion of the beginning of the world is repugnant to me. And Lemaitre, without any equation, just write one page in Nature to explain why, in fact, the model that he proposed is not at all repugnant. And he said he made the hypothesis. It's just one extract. Okay. At the time, quantum mechanics was just still in construction, and Lemaitre was not a specialist of quantum mechanics, but he catch the main ideas. So he suspected that in quantum mechanics, in quantum process, notional space and time are just statistical notion, and he made the hypothesis that if the world has begun in quantum era, something like that, notional space and time would fail to have any sense at the beginning. So it's already a very modern view, but which could not be pushed forward by Lemaitre at the time of development of quantum cosmology. So we conclude that finally in this description of the initial quantum universe and disintegration to give rise to a diversity of the universe is a model which could be a satisfactory description of the order of nature. So made a detailed analysis of this paper. And again, a last sentence suppressed in the publication, and this is related precisely to the opinion of Lemaitre, the separation he made between science and religion. So this is the last part, so this is the original from the Archive Lemaitre, the original typescript sent to Nature. So the published paper ends here. Okay, the story is up to there. And Lemaitre had this. I think that everyone believes in the supreme being supporting every being and every acting. Believes also that God is essentially hidden, and may be glad to see how present physics provides a veil hiding the creation. Okay. And this sentence was not published. So this clearly settles the fact that in the mind of Lemaitre there was no confusion at all between the existence of supreme being, who is not the creator, physical creator, the creator of the physical universe, and the man of relativistic conclusion. Well, as you know, the model was not accepted, and Anselm de Sitter, who were the first proponents of the cosmological solution, with static solution, recognized, of course, that the universe was dynamical, as you know, the famous paper published in 1932. In fact, simplifying all the things Euclidean space, no pressure, no chromatographical constant, just variable matter. And this is the famous Einstein de Sitter model, which was the standard model, which plays the role of standard model for decades. It's an oversimplified solution. It was more or less used for the next 60 years. Well, there was some controversy, experimental controversy, because the age of this kind of universe was generally shorter than some estimation of the age of the oldest stars. So there are many discussions in the 40s, in the 50s, in this the validity of this model. Okay. In fact, well, the main virtue, one of the virtues of this model, because in fact this model, how to say, did not help development of alternative models. And in fact, the idea of the cosmological constant that Einstein considered as a big blunder by himself was neglected, and he reappeared only later with the dark energy. But in fact, since this model assumed zero curvature, you need implicitly that the density of the universe was equal to the critical density. And at the time, of course, when the observed matter of the universe was well below. So implicitly, even if it is not written in the paper, it needs a lot of dark matter to have this model. Unfortunately, we know that Einstein was not always perfectly clear with the bibliographical references, so it doesn't make any reference to the work of Riemann and Lemaitre in this paper. Anyway, Einstein met Lemaitre at several occasions, in particular in the United States, where Lemaitre was invited to give many conferences. So he repeat again his objection with the model, saying that it's inspired by the Christian dogma of population. Lemaitre could not convince Einstein that was not at all the case. Also, as you know, Einstein rejected the cosmological constant, whereas Lemaitre really want to have the cosmological constant for several reasons. One of the reasons we have seen to solve the age problem and to allow the galaxy to form. And one deepest reason that I shall explain just in the next slide. Okay, so there was some dispute between the two, because Einstein said, this is my greatest blunder, and Lemaitre maybe is your greatest discovery, so Einstein was not glad about that. So in fact, as you know, Einstein gave up research in cosmology to devote to research in unitary field. Okay, but anyway, he was admirative of the work of Lemaitre, and he supported the candidacy of Lemaitre for the Franke Prize, which is the most important Belgian prize in science.
Did Lemaitre
After that,
get this prize, or did he get the prize? Lemaitre, was he awarded the prize or not? Because he just said...
To fight. He wanted to fight?
No. I'm just asking whether Lemaitre was awarded the Franke.
Yes, he was. Yes. He was supported by Einstein. He was awarded. Yes. Okay. In 1932, Lemaitre published another fascinating paper, which is not read much because also again in French. Okay. L'univers et l'extension. And in fact, it's not only a paper about cosmology. It was a paper with a lot of things. And in particular, in this paper, he proves that he was interested in the Schwarzschild solution, the hypothesis of gravitational collapse. It was not called yet a black hole, as you know, but there was an obstacle to accept this. It was in the first coordinate system. There was a singularity, a divergence of curvature at the Schwarzschild surface. Okay, and Lemaitre was the first to show that it was a fictitious singularity due to a bad choice of the coordinate system, the original metric proposed by Churchill. And so he introduced new coordinates, which were called later Eddington-Finch coordinates, which is the Lemaitre coordinate, to show that there are no singularity at the surface, but a singularity at r equals 0 at the center. And more generally, also in this paper, he proved the occurrence of singularity in general relativity if there are no quantum correction. Not the same techniques, the very detailed techniques later used by Hawking and Penrose to prove the singularity theorem with a general assumption, but more or less it's the same idea. And this is completely forgotten. Okay. Okay.
But did he prove it for general initial conditions? Or in special cases?
No, he proved in general or reasonable physical conditions. Okay.
Because
positivity of energies, of course it's not as much detail as the different hypotheses of the Hawking-Penrose theorem, including distance of Cauchy surface and something like that, and positive energy condition, weak, strong, and all that. But in general circumstances, it showed that, in the gravitational collapse, the singularity was inevitable, unless there are quantum correction that at the time was not possible to make any calculation. Also, he was interested in the Phoenix universe model, and mainly the suggestion that the periodic universe of Riemann, and they showed that it didn't work, in fact. And also, he develops his idea of galaxy formation. In 1934, he published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science in English, but again it was not read, and I don't understand why. It was evolution of the expanding universe. So there is a kind of suggestion, not a calculation, a kind of suggestion that there could be a relics of the programmable atom hypothesis in the form of a cosmic radiation, because he estimates just that if we distribute the density in the universe and we evaluate the energy, it could be equivalent to an equilibrium radiation at a temperature for liquid hydrogen, so a very low temperature. It's no detailed calculation, but just a suggestion. But more important, this is really astonishing, in this short paper, he also suggests that there is a vacuum energy, and due to problems of renormalization, that we can associate a pressure to the energy density, and it is a negative pressure. Okay. So for him, the vacuum energy is the best explanation of the cosmological constant. So it's the first interpretation of the cosmological constant as the density energy of vacuum, quantum vacuum, associated to this equation of state that he gives here. And as you know, this will be completely forgotten and it will be recovered in quantum field theory by Zeldovich and other people much later. After that, Lemaitre doesn't work especially in cosmology, but he published a series of selected papers in a book, which was translated in English, hypothesis of programmable atom hypothesis. Okay. At the time, of course, the only experimental support was just the redshift. Okay. But at the time also, Gamow and his collaborators proposed a second test, experimental test of Big Bang cosmology, of hot Big Bang universe through the primordial nucleosynthesis. But curiously, Lemaitre was no more interested in this aspect, in atomic, in nuclear physics, so he never met Gamow to discuss that. As you know, in 1948, Gamow and Alpher calculate the abundance of light elements in the early universe, the famous alpha, beta, gamma paper. You know probably the story, the anecdote about this paper. In fact, the work was done only by Alpher and Gamow was a man with a sense of humor, who wanted absolutely to have the first 3 letters of the Greek alphabet, so he lacked the letter beta. He didn't ask to Bethe, to Hans Bethe, to sign the paper, to publish the paper without asking permission. When he saw that, Bethe was not glad at all. And after a few years, when he understood the importance of the paper, he said, okay. Okay. Alpher and Hermann predicted the fossil radiation as a black body radiation at temperature of 5 Kelvin, published in Nature. In the years following, Gamow made various estimates between 3 and 7. As you know, well, Penzias and Wilson discovered the microwave radiation. At the time, they didn't understand what happened. It's the theory, the theoretical physicists in Princeton, Dickey, Peebles, Hall, and Wilkinson, were working at the time on some Big Bang model, hot Big Bang model. Listened to a seminar of Penzias and Wilson. They said that you have discovered what we are looking for. So it was a time where the Big Bang theory triumphed over the alternative steady state theory proposed by Fred Hoyle and other people who were really opponents and who stayed after opponents to the Big Bang model. In 96, Georges Lemaître died, just a few months later. I met personally the assistant of Georges Lemaître, who was also an incredible person. Odon Godard was a meteorologist, astronomer. Odon Godard, who died in 96, told me in the 90s when I prepared my first book that himself he went to see Lemaître, who was at the hospital, dying at the hospital, and he announced the discovery. And Lemaître said him, I'm glad, we have the proof. Okay, but that's all. And also Gamow died in 68, so finally the Nobel Prize went only to Penzias and Wilson. Okay, so this is a short history. There are many other details, of course, so you can read many work and paper. I want just to mention that I thought that Lemaître more or less stopped to work really in detail in cosmology in the 30s, but he was involved in many other researches like this. For instance, he was interested in the mathematics of quantum mechanics, so he made a very interesting interpretation of the Dirac equation in terms of quaternions. So, as I told you, he proved the occurrence of singularity and general relativity. He devoted, with some collaborators like Vallarta, a lot of work to the cosmic rays and the trajectory of cosmic rays. Who involves some tricky mathematical problem, which is Stirner's problem, that he proposed some solution using fast Fourier transforms. Because he thinks that one of the relics of the primary world atom hypothesis were cosmic rays, not only fossil radiation, but cosmic rays of very high energy. You know that now cosmic rays, which is a very important subject, most of cosmic rays were interpreted as a manifestation of some explosive phenomena, supernova, an acceleration by magnetic field. But you know probably that there is a range of very high energy of cosmic ray, which apparently is very difficult to explain by usual phenomena, and some new models involve a cosmic ray emitted at the beginning of the universe, which was the initial idea of Lemaître. But curiously, again, Lemaître is never quoted for this. Well, he was strongly involved in numerical analysis. So he generalized the Range-Kutta methods, he analyzed the three-body problems, numerical integration of differential equation, and after he was fascinated by the computer. So he introduced the first computer in Belgium, so we have photographs, not here, with a big computer. And he devised a scientific programming language, which is a kind of ancestor of the Fortran. I don't know if you know Fortran. I don't know if Fortran. I used Fortran in the 60s in my first calculation. I don't know now if you use Fortran. I don't think so. But well, so this is part of the contribution from Lemaitre. Says to you, thank you, merci. Dankeschön.
Any questions? All very clear.
Yeah, it was very clear.
clear.
Yeah, very clear. Yeah, you know, I think it's very good that I didn't appreciate that Lemaitre made such a great contribution. Maybe he was just too modest.
Sure, he was extremely modest, yes. Slipher also. So finally, there is a kind of injustice in the story of science. People who are too modest, more or less disappear. Well, Lemaitre less than Slipher, because Slipher is incredible. Slipher lived until 1984, something like that. But in the last 40 years of his life, he was completely erased. Parce que Hubble never quoted the work of Slipher.
All right, then let's go for lunch. Thank you.
Thank you.